Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The morning light crept in gently through the blinds, spilling over the quiet stillness of the bedroom that once buzzed with laughter, whispers, and soft stolen kisses. Now, it was filled with silence thick enough to choke on. I stood by the bed, barefoot, wearing only his shirt, crisp, white, and still warm from the dryer. No bra. Just skin beneath cotton. It was deliberate. Not to seduce him, but to remember what it felt like when I could. Aaron was in the kitchen. The sound of his spoon clinking against his coffee cup was louder than it should have been. We hadn't really spoken in 3 days. He worked late, came home tired, and when we lay in bed, his back was always to me, a new habit. I used to be his escape. Now, I was the thing he escaped from. We used to dance in this kitchen at midnight, barefoot and drunk on each other. Now, I teased him. Not for revenge. Not even for attention. But because I wanted to see him again, the real him. Not this stranger in my husband's body. Maybe if he looked at me like he used to, I'd stop questioning what I already suspected. He walked in, paused. His eyes flicked to me, then away. He saw the shirt. He saw what I wasn't wearing under it. But he said nothing. I smirked. Not because I was confident, but because I was crumbling. I reached for a coffee cup slowly, knowing the motion pulled the shirt up, exposing just a bit more. I felt his gaze, brief and heavy. And then he snapped. But not the way you'd expect. He didn't pull me into his arms. He didn't pin me against the wall. Instead, his voice cracked. Why are you doing this? It wasn't anger. It was confusion. Pain. Because something had changed. Or maybe it had always been broken, and we just dressed it up in weddings and anniversaries. I looked at him, really looked, and I didn't recognize the man who used to breathe me like air. And then I said it. Softly. Carefully. There's someone else, isn't there? His expression didn't flinch. But his silence thundered between us like a scream. And just like that, the real game began. Aaron didn't answer right away. He stood still, coffee steaming in his hand, eyes dark and unreadable. I watched his jaw twitch, just once, like he was holding something back. A truth. A memory. A regret. Maybe all of it. You always think the worst, he finally muttered, voice low, almost weary. He didn't deny it. He didn't say there wasn't someone else. He just gave me a line that meant nothing, and that told me everything. I leaned against the counter, the hem of his shirt brushing my thighs. The silence stretched between us, too thick to cut through. We weren't shouting. There were no broken dishes or slammed doors. Just this still, slow ache, the kind that creeps into a marriage and makes a home feel like a waiting room. You used to touch me like you needed to, I whispered, eyes fixed on the lip of my coffee mug. Now, you barely look at me. He closed his eyes briefly. Don't do this. Do what? I asked, my voice soft, almost trembling. Ask why my husband walks past me like I'm a stranger. Aaron set the mug down a little too hard on the marble counter. You think I haven't noticed? The perfume that's not yours. The lingerie tag still on the dresser. You wear it now, but never for me. I flinched. So he had noticed. But he never said a word until now. This is the first time you've looked at me in days, I said, my throat tightening. You think putting on my shirt and showing skin fixes that? No, I said quietly. I think I miss you. The room went still again. This time, his eyes found mine and held them. There was a flicker, something old and familiar. Desire. Regret. Maybe even guilt. He took a step toward me, and for a second, I thought he'd reach out. But then he stopped. "We're not the same anymore," he said, and in that moment, I saw the wall between us wasn't new. It had been built, brick by silent brick, over time. And yet, there was still a door. The question was, would either of us walk through it, or keep pretending we didn't see it at all? That night, the rain came soft and steady, tapping against the windows like it was trying to remind us of something we'd forgotten. The kind of rain that used to bring us closer, under blankets, against skin, between whispered promises we once believed would last. Aaron sat on the edge of the bed, shirt unbuttoned, phone glowing in his hand. I pretended to read a book, but my eyes flicked toward him every time the light from the screen shifted across his face. His brows furrowed. His lips twitched, not in a smile, but in a way that made me wonder, who are you texting at midnight? He didn't hide the screen. But he didn't show it, either. My heart drummed slower now, not from fear, but from that hollow kind of knowing. The kind that doesn't come with proof. Just instincts. Just the distance in his voice when he answers. The way his touch started feeling like routine, not desire. I used to be his late-night conversation. Now, I was just, in the room. He looked over suddenly, catching my gaze. "You okay?" I nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Just tired." He studied me for a second too long. "You've been quiet lately." I wanted to laugh. Quiet? I'd been screaming in silence for weeks. Instead, I said, "You're always on your phone." He blinked, defensive. "It's work. It's midnight." He sighed and set the phone down, face down, on the nightstand. That small move felt like a statement. Not guilt. Just avoidance. "I don't ask questions because I'm scared of the answers," I said, the words falling out before I could catch them. He turned to me slowly. "Is there something you think you know?" "I don't know anything anymore." A pause. Then, softly, "There's no one else." I wanted to believe him. But trust isn't built on words, it's built on how someone looks at you across a room when you're wearing their shirt and nothing else. It's in the hand that lingers. The breath that quickens. The way they choose you, even in the mundane. Lately, I felt chosen, by memory, not by him. And yet, part of me wondered, was I pushing him away first? The late-night pictures I never sent. The texts I never deleted. The what-if conversations in my head about someone I shouldn't be thinking of. Were we both cheating, not with bodies, but with thoughts? Somewhere deep in the house, a floorboard creaked. We both looked toward the sound. Nothing. Just shadows and echoes. But that sound, that tiny intrusion, felt like a warning. Something was coming. Something neither of us were ready to name. And still, he reached out, fingers brushing mine. Just for a moment. I didn't pull away. But I didn't hold on, either. The night stretched on, quiet but full of noise. The kind that isn't heard, but felt, in every glance, every breath, every heartbeat that refuses to settle. The kind of silence that could shatter glass. Aaron stood by the window now, shirt still open, rainlight spilling across his bare chest in soft shadows. I stayed in bed, watching him from the distance of a few feet, and what felt like 1,000 miles. He wasn't touching me, but everything about him was pulling me in. And that was the problem. "I don't know how we got here," he murmured, his voice almost lost in the sound of the rain. "One minute, you were everything I needed, and then I couldn't feel anything anymore." I sat up slowly. "Do you still try?" He turned to face me. Eyes red-rimmed, not from tears, but from trying too hard not to cry. "Every day." That was the moment something cracked. Not between us, but inside me. Because I had tried, too. I wore his shirt to feel close to him, hoping he'd see me again. Not just as his wife, but as the woman he used to want with his whole soul. And now, here we were, standing on the ruins of something beautiful, still reaching, but unsure if we were reaching for each other or just the past. I stepped off the bed, bare feet on the cold wood floor. Walked to him. Stopped just close enough to feel the warmth from his skin. "Do you still want me?" I asked, barely above a whisper. He looked at me, really looked, and in that second, I saw it, the ache. The longing. The confusion. The fire that hadn't died, just buried under months of silence and suspicion. "I never stopped," he said, his voice breaking. "But I don't know if I deserve to." I touched his chest lightly. Not a kiss. Not forgiveness. Just contact. A reminder. We were both trembling. It was the closest we'd been in weeks. But we didn't kiss. We didn't fall into each other like before. Because we were standing at the edge of something dangerous, and we both knew, if we took one more step, we might not survive what came next. His breath caught the moment I touched him, a subtle intake, like my fingers woke something in him he thought was gone. We stood there, rain-softened light between us, both of us on the edge of doing something we couldn't take back. But then, the phone buzzed. A sharp vibration on the nightstand, slicing through the fragile moment like a blade. Aaron froze. His eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me. But something changed. In that single heartbeat, the air shifted. I stepped back, heart thudding. "You expecting someone?" He didn't answer. The second buzz came. I moved past him before I could think better of it. I picked up the phone. Locked screen. One name. Just a first name. Leah. I turned the screen toward him. "Leah?" His silence was louder than any confession. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something across the room just to break the sickly quiet. But I didn't. I stared at him, hand trembling, voice brittle. "Who is she?" Aaron stepped forward, his voice tight. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Aaron?" I snapped, the crack in my voice finally showing. "Because it's not me anymore. That much I'm sure of." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room like a caged animal. "It started as texts. Work stuff. Late hours." She listened. "I didn't mean for it to go anywhere, but it did." He stopped moving. The truth hanging between us. My stomach twisted. "Did you sleep with her?" "No," he said quickly, too quickly. Then softer, "but I thought about it. More than once." That hit harder than any physical betrayal. I staggered back, holding on to the edge of the dresser. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was that he'd wanted someone else to feel what used to be mine. My shirt still clung to me, suddenly feeling like a joke, a costume. But before I could speak again, my phone lit up. Aaron noticed. "You gonna check it?" I turned away. The screen read, "Missed call, Jay." His eyes narrowed. "Jay?" I didn't answer. Now the silence belonged to me. Aaron's voice dropped. "You, too?" I closed my eyes. We weren't husband and wife in that moment. We were two strangers, both guilty, both bleeding, both still hopelessly wanting something that might no longer exist. Or maybe, it never did. The rain had stopped. But the storm inside the room hadn't. Aaron sat on the edge of the bed, his face in his hands. I stood by the dresser, arms wrapped around myself, as if I could hold the pieces of me together. My phone lay face down beside his now, both devices glowing with unanswered truths. "I loved you more than I knew how to say," he said, not looking up. But somewhere along the way, I started loving the memory of us more than the person in front of me. Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. So that's it? No, he stood, walked slowly to me. I never touched her. But I let her touch parts of me I should have saved for you. I swallowed hard. And my voice broke. I let myself wonder what it would be like to be loved by someone who still saw me. Jay, he's just a friend. But the thoughts weren't. Aaron reached for my hand, hesitant but open. We can end this right now. Walk away. Or we can start over, without lies. But only if we both stay. I stared at him, eyes filled with everything we'd broken, and everything we might still build. And then, the knock at the door. 3 soft raps. We froze. Aaron turned, confused. Are you expecting someone? I shook my head slowly. Another knock. This time, a voice, I need to talk to her. My heart stopped. It was Jay. Aaron's face went pale. You gave him our address? I never meant for, I started, but the look in his eyes stopped me. The moment hung like a breath on the edge of a kiss, full of possibility and disaster. And then, Aaron surprised me. He stepped back, jaw tight, but eyes steady. You need to answer it. I opened the door. Jay stood there, holding an envelope. I didn't come for her, he said, turning to Aaron. I came for you. My breath caught. Jay handed him the envelope. You should know what she planned before you give up. Aaron opened it. Inside was a photo, old, worn, of me and Aaron at our wedding, taped beside a plane ticket. My return ticket. To the city where we first met. I whispered, I was going to leave. But not to run. To bring you back. Aaron looked at me, broken and whole in the same breath. And finally, he pulled me into his arms. We both cried. But this time, it wasn't the end. It was the first beginning we chose. The days that followed weren't perfect. Healing never is. Aaron and I didn't sweep things under the rug or fall back into each other like nothing happened. Instead, we sat with the hurt. We talked, really talked, for the first time in what felt like years. About how we drifted. About how we betrayed each other, not with our bodies, but with our absence, our silence, our unmet promises. Jay never returned after that night. He left the photo and ticket, and with it, the space we needed to choose each other again, freely, not out of guilt or fear. It turned out, the envelope hadn't been his idea. It was mine. I'd given it to him a week earlier when I almost walked out. I told him, if I don't find the words, deliver this. Maybe it'll say what I can't. And somehow, it did. Aaron and I made the trip. Back to the city where we first fell in love. Not to escape, but to remember. The little diner where he spilled coffee on my jeans. The bookstore where we shared headphones and sat on the floor for hours. The bridge where he first told me he couldn't imagine life without me. We didn't fix everything overnight. We still had to rebuild trust, intimacy, and faith. But we began choosing to love each other in the now, not just mourning what we used to be. Some nights, I still wear his shirt. But not to get his attention. Just because it smells like home again. We made new promises, quiet ones, this time. Not about forever, but about tomorrow. About choosing honesty over pride. Showing up even when it's hard. And not letting the world outside become louder than the love within. Because sometimes, the people who hurt us are the ones we still want beside us when everything else falls apart. Not because they're perfect, but because they're willing, to try, to grow, to stay. And maybe that's what real love is. Not the grand gestures, but the quiet decision to stay when it's easier to leave.